You can sense the intensity as they await the arrival of the Tennessee team here at Neyland Stadium. The #1 undefeated Volunteers prepare to race onto the field. Everything is riding on this football game. So there's a special intensity, a special urgency. Here come the Volunteers. Wherever you listen throughout the world, it's football time in Tennessee.
What's going on, YouTubes? What's up, Vol fans and SEC fans all over this country? I had a little technical difficulty. I thought I was going doing a little test on my YouTube there, and I thought I was doing it private, but I guess y'all got to see it. But I'm back, and I've got a special guest. I'm going to bring him on in a little bit. He's got a great YouTube channel. His name's Gary. He's with Winning Cures Everything. Him and his partner, they do a lot of good stuff over there, and we're not going to hold it against him. He's a Gump. He's an Alabama fan, but we love everybody over here on the Volunteer Roadshow, and we're going to bring him on with my regular co-host. He's no longer a guest host. He is a co-host of the Volunteer Roadshow, Couch Coach. Now, we may have some guest hosts if he can't make it, or trying to make this show interesting for you guys. Again, like always, I couldn't do it without you. I couldn't do it without Allied Oil and Tire. And the Allied Oil and Tire hotline is open now at 855-489-7623. And I want to hear from you guys. You know, we have our own opinion here on this show, but this show is built on you, the fans, and y'all bring a lot to the show. Y'all help the show out, and those of you in the comments section, get on the horn, get on the phone, and interact with us. We love talking to you. There's really no such thing as a bad call on here, unless you're Delusional Paul. But anyway, we love Delusional Paul anyway. He's still a good call, very entertaining. But I just wanted to give a few shout-outs to some people. I met a guy at a truck stop. I was standing in line getting me a Twinkie, and a guy behind me says, "Catfish." I be dang, it's Catfish. Turned out to be one of my viewers. I told him I was going to give a shout-out. We're not going to hold it against him. He's a Georgia fan, but it seems like Georgia fans has overrun the Volunteer Roadshow. And he drives for Abilene. I seen him up there in Whitfield, Virginia. So, Jimmy, here's your shout out. I don't know what your name is here on YouTube, but he's a trucker, and I'd like to thank all the truckers out there. And there's a lot of you that watch me. And I don't know, somebody brought this to my attention today. The University of Georgia is running advertisements on my channel. And I think that's because I've got a lot of Georgia fans on here. But I thought that was kind of funny. But we're going to bring on my co-host, my partner in crime, my good friend, if I can get him unmuted here, Couch Coach. How you doing, Couch Coach?
I'm doing excellent, sir. And speaking of Athens, I am pounding down a Creature Comfort as we speak. Athena Paradiso.
Oh, wow.
I highly recommend, by the way.
Never had that. Is that anything like Bud Light or Miller Light or anything like that? Or is it better?
Wow. Catfish, we got to get you to Athens, my friend.
Well, this is a boring week. We don't have a lot going. I mean, who would have thought that the game of the week would have been Tennessee, Missouri coming in? But that's really about all that's going on. You guys play UMass, and Alabama plays that tough rivalry, Citadel. I don't know. Is there anything else outside the SEC going on?
Yeah, this is the last boring weekend before in-state rivalry weekend, and of course championship weekend. So the bad news is a lot of really boring matchups, a lot of kind of teams resting their players, getting teams ready for a postseason push. But the good news is moving forward, it's going to be hot and heavy getting into in-state rivalry week / rivalry week, whatever you want to call that weekend. And then, of course, championship weekend. So it's a trade-off, but it is what it is, and we'll just make it through till next weekend.
Yeah. What do you got any plans for Thanksgiving? I know wherever I'm going to be, there better be some deviled eggs. What is your go-to dish for Thanksgiving? I can't be the only one that likes deviled eggs. I can't be the only one. I could eat 24 of them.
Well, you're not. I got to tell you a few things about Thanksgiving. One, it's my birthday the day before Thanksgiving. So,
oh, wow, happy birthday.
A lot of times my birthday – well, thank you. A lot of times my birthday tends to hang around Thanksgiving on certain years. And then also, it's weird because my side of the family, there's two sides, obviously. The Moore side, which is very Southern. They do the Southern dishes, the cornbread dressing. That's a big staple of Southern food. And then kind of the Northeastern side of the family, which does the oyster dressing. So I'm a big fan of dressing and cornbread stuffing. And they both are really good and done in different ways. And so it's just a different style of how you cook it. And, of course, I like fried turkey, especially like the last 10 years or so. We've fried a turkey up. And if you guys haven't had a fried turkey, I highly recommend. I don't really need it, considering how fat I am, but it is a high-quality deal if you can get one of those things. And I'm always interested in hear what maybe some of the callers have to say tonight about some of their Thanksgiving dishes and things that they do, especially with, grilling and things like that. We've had barbecue, actually, at our Thanksgiving dinner one time, and that's turned out really well.
Yeah.
So just any kind of ideas like that from the callers would be really interesting tonight maybe.
Well, before I bring Gary on, I'm going to do a shout-out to those in the live chat. We've got Gate City Blue Devil in here. Space Mountain, a great Florida fan. I hear you play Idaho, Space Mountain. You're going to win that game, cover the spread. I don't even know what the spread is. Christian A., Alabama fan. Cringe Reacts. Ryan Strick. He says he can't call in, but you better call in, Ryan. I need some callers. Call the Allied Oil and Tire hotline at 855-489-7623. Andrew Odom's in here. I am El Nino, college football talk, and Charles Odom. How you doing? Glad to have all of you in here. I say it all the time. I couldn't do it without y'all. Y'all really help me out, and I love interacting with you, and I love meeting you. Like Jimmy at the truck stop, and kind of freaked me out there for a minute when he said catfish. It kind of little cognitive dissonance that wasn't registered, and then he said it again, and I turned around and he was a Georgia fan. So anyway, we're not going to hold that against him. I see SEC Dogs in here. He says can't beat a smoked turkey with pecan wood and on Thanksgiving. That sounds good, don't it, Couch Coach?
Woo-wee. Excellent.
Yep. DSGB. But I'm going to go ahead and bring our guest on. He's with Winning Cures Everything. His name's Gary. He's an Alabama fan, which some of y'all in here are Alabama fans. Probably won't mind that too much. His co-host is an LSU fan, but they have a great YouTube channel. And they're over there in Memphis, the Tunica area, and they do a lot of betting stuff on their show. So I want everybody to go sub them up. Just type in Winning Cures Everything and tell them Catfish sent you over there. How you doing, Gary?
Oh, I can't complain too much. I appreciate y'all having me on.
Yeah, glad to have you. Well, I'm going to let Couch Coach talk to you for a minute. We're going to kind of talk over maybe some games this week later after Couch Coach talks to you, but he's got wanting some advice kind of going into championship weekend, rivalry weekend, and on into the playoffs. So, Couch Coach, this is Gary. He's all yours.
Sure. Well, I mean, obviously, anytime you talk about any kind of gambling or betting lines, things like that, I always think it's very important to kind of gauge the perception and kind of looking at different people's models of kind of what they use and what's been very successful for them. I mean, I know for me, I look at that perception as the first thing, and then, of course, the number is the second thing. And I was just kind of trying to weigh what your, I guess, initial process of how you kind of analyze games and things of that nature.
Well, the first thing I start out with is I go over metrics, right? So you're looking at success rates. Bill Conley from SB Nation has S&P Plus, which is really, really effective. But then you go into things like the Massey ratings, Sagarin ratings, all that kind of stuff. And for me, I toss all of it in together, right? And once I get a good firm number, from there you look at situations. So, for example, last week, Kentucky, by the metrics, should have been, a 6 or 7 point winner against Tennessee. But coming off two really emotional games, really hard-fought games, maybe underestimating the opponent, I took Tennessee on the money line last week and came out a winner. So, and that was never really in doubt. But it's a combination of knowing, are the numbers actually what they are based on which week, right? So there's a lot that goes into it, and no, not everybody's going to win every week. As they always say, there's a reason that they build all those hotels down in Tunica and Las Vegas and whatnot. They got the big flashy lights for a reason. They're not free. So, you're going to lose some, but if you look in the right spots, you can always find a winner here or there.
Yeah, well, and see, that's really good information because, when we talk about lines and kind of perceptions, and I harp on the perception because kind of my background, and I'm not even anywhere near as hardcore as some of you guys are in terms of how you analyze. And there's just a ton of channels with betting and gambling, and of course, some of those are more legit than others, right? I mean, a lot of times these gamblers get on there and they're trying to force certain people to bet a certain way so they can capitalize, right? So it's kind of that Jimmy the Greek kind of mentality of, I'm going to act like I'm an idiot, don't know what I'm doing, when they're really trying to move the line one way or the other. But I think that what I'm seeing, how I came across is, obviously that just the value of perception, especially in our media. And of course, you always hear things in our media, whether you're talking Fox News or CNN or whatever about how it drives politics. And I think it really drives sports media as well, especially the biggest sports media of them all, ESPN, and kind of the information that they put out there. I mean, I guess maybe explain to some of the listeners, do you guys even look into the national perception, especially of how these teams are being portrayed?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, a big thing is, gamblers will figure out when a team is on a roll. And let's take, for instance, Fresno State, right? Fresno State right now, up until last week, they had won, I believe, 8 straight games against the spread, and they just couldn't make the number high enough. And Alabama's kind of the same way. It's, the metrics never quite say exactly what the line should be, and the line is always bigger than what the metrics say it's supposed to be. But with Fresno State, for example, this week, if you go and look at the betting trends, in Vegas right now, you are getting way, like 70% of the bets that are coming in, and 90% of the money that's coming in is on Fresno State. And that line opened up at Fresno minus 15. So, of course, the public is all over Fresno State. They just think they're going to kill San Diego State. But on the other side of it, Vegas is moving that line down to where Fresno's only about a 13-point favorite right now, even though most of the money and the majority of the tickets are on Fresno. So that throws up red flags. You can always look for stuff like that. VegasInsider.com is a good spot for that to kind of, see exactly how things are moving one way or another, what the betting trends are. But yeah, as far as, people talk really, really highly of Clemson, they'll, at least ESPN and all the national media will. But Clemson, they just don't cover real well at home against lesser teams. I won quite a bit on Georgia Southern early in the year against Clemson, and they are rolling people right now. But, Duke is not 28.5 points worse than Clemson. But a lot of people will have you think that. And they could very well beat them by 4 touchdowns, 5 touchdowns. But there's no reason why the line should be that. The metrics that I've got have Clemson about a 20-point winner. So, of course, they're going to extend that line out because there's going to be so much public betting on Clemson because they're just rolling everybody right now.
Well, we'll kind of go along with that metrics to kind of keep this kind of with not to be too Vegas sharky here, but kind of looking at future bets, right? Because obviously this weekend is what it is. It's kind of a dead weekend before the big matchups going into next week. And you talk about this kind of predictive analysis that you have in place, and every kind of group has different variations of what you're talking about, right? And I think that a good practice, and maybe we can kind of do this with the listeners tonight, is go ahead and predict some of these big matchups for next weekend, like Ohio State and Michigan. What's going to be the spread there? Georgia Tech, what's going to be a spread there? The Iron Bowl, what's going to be a spread there, right? And so maybe we can kind of break down your analysis on that, and then maybe toss it out to the fans and kind of see what they think as well. And then once we kind of have a number in line, then we can kind of analyze the games.
Well, the number on that Michigan-Ohio State, now don't forget, obviously, Ohio State is at home next week. The numbers over at Sagarin would indicate that Michigan should be about a 3-point favorite, but home field advantage is worth, to them, it's like 2.5 points. So You're looking at basically a pick'em game between Michigan and Ohio State. Now, I would guess, because of the national perception, that Michigan is going to open up about a 3 or 4 point favorite. And I'm sure people will jump all over it because they think Ohio State is just crap. But would it surprise anybody if Ohio State won that ballgame?
No. It would surprise Catfish. It would surprise Catfish because he likes the needle illusion of Paul.
I've been making a fortune off of taking the points with Ohio State. I think they've been favored in almost every game, and I mainly do that to get under Paul's skin, but little did I know it's going to make me a lot of money. But before you go on to that, I've got a question. What is the point spread with the Tennessee-Missouri game? Because that's a game I think has a lot of intrigue. We're coming off of a great emotional high with Tennessee. We have a tendency to let that go sometimes with a young team, a young coaching staff. I think I heard Missouri was actually favored in this game, but I don't know how much they're favored by, but I really think we have a good chance.
Well, Missouri is favored by 6.5 right now. At most places, it's 6.5, whichever place you get it from. It opened up across the board at 5. So the public has actually bet this in Missouri's favor. If you look at the actual, analytical numbers and all that mumbo jumbo, Missouri is about a 6.7 favorite. So the number is about where it's supposed to be as far as the actual analytics go. But I'm with you. I think Tennessee's got a pretty good secondary, and Missouri on the road just seems to they just kind of fold a little bit when they get on the road. I mean, I saw them do it against South Carolina. They didn't look nearly as good at Alabama, which you can't blame them. But, at home, you see them put up a fight against Georgia. You see them hold and serve and lead Kentucky for most of the game and just kind of crap that one away.
Yeah.
Missouri at home is a different team than they are on the road. And the fact that this one's in Neyland, I mean, I would not put it past Jeremy Pruitt and that bunch to win this ball game outright.
Oh, I think we are going to win that game. I really do. I know I talk a lot of trash, but I think that we finally got a good combination on the offensive line. And isn't it amazing what you can do on offense when you've got some boys in the trenches that can block? You can throw the ball, you can pass the ball. You can do a whole lot when you can block. And Tennessee has shown what happens when you don't have an offensive line. You get pummeled. And I think we've actually got some great playmakers. We got Juwan Jennings, Marquez Callaway, Palmer. There's just a lot of guys that I think are great playmakers that because of the team record, a lot of people outside of Tennessee really don't pay attention to. But I think we have the ability to play, and I think Garantano needed that confidence that he wasn't going to get popped on every play, and he's hung in there and delivered some good balls knowing he was going to get hit. But I can't help but think that you've got a lot more confidence when you know you don't have somebody breathing down your neck on every snap. And I just think we're going to win the game.
Well, when you've got protection, yeah, Garantano, when you have protection, He's a lot more confident, like you said. He's a lot better player. Like he's looked immensely better in the past, 3-4 ball games. I mean, he's been over 50% passing ever since the Alabama game. The Alabama game he got knocked out kind of early, but South Carolina game he was 27 out of 39 for 207 yards and 2 touchdowns. Charlotte, same thing. Like, really, you guys should have won the South Carolina game.
Yeah,
absolutely should have won that. That was
our defense disappeared. Don't bring that up. That's in the past. We're moving forward.
All right, so on to Charlotte and Kentucky. So at Kentucky, the good thing is when you can play an SEC opponent and you've only got to throw the ball 20 times, like that's a good day.
Yeah.
Like that's the biggest thing. When you're having to throw it, 30, 35 times, it's tough to win in the SEC like that. But, I mean, against Kentucky, 12 out of 20, 197 yards, 2 touchdowns, your running game's going. Your offensive line's blocking. When everybody does the job, it makes everybody else's job a little bit easier.
Yeah. Well, I know
I'm going to be the elephant / bulldog in the room here, and I'm just going to say something with Tennessee. I agree. I think that they've got through the meat of their schedule. I mean, the first half of that schedule was absolutely brutal, right? Just with who they had to play. But I think with this Missouri game, it's important for Tennessee to perform well against a quarterback that can sling it. Because I think they can prove that they can beat like a Jared Stidham that's kind of just whatever this year, and they could beat a Kentucky that's just kind of with their passing game. But a Drew Lock and even that South Carolina game with Jake Bentley, I think that's my only kind of concern with the Missouri game. I mean, I think you can feel pretty confident about taking Tennessee on that line, but I'm just a little leery with Drew Lock there on that line, just because he has that ability to pull a game out just like Jake Bentley can. So that's the only thing. But I mean, it's definitely not outside the realm of possibility for Kentucky to beat a Missouri, especially after playing in Alabama, Georgia, West Virginia, which all those guys are top 10, top 5, top 15 teams. So I think definitely Tennessee's moving in the right direction and kind of getting some identity there, but it's important for them to play well. And both of these teams coming down the stretch. I mean, they got okay quarterbacks. So I would look into that as well.
Well, the other thing that you might want to check out is, what does Derek Dooley being on the other sideline mean? I don't think it means a whole lot for the Tennessee players that are there right now, but for Dooley, would the Missouri players want to, do they play a little more hyped up because of how things went down when he was at Tennessee?
I don't think it matters.
I don't think it matters. It actually gives me a little bit more confidence that he's over there. And the phone lines are open. The phone lines are open. And, I'm still blaming Derek Dooley. So I still got to get that in a little bit. But before we go to the calls, I told Couch Coach earlier on our midweek show that all these big, huge spreads with Alabama with 50-something points, I don't know what it is now, but they've been covering all the big point spreads. I say this might be a week you take the points with Alabama because Tua's iffy. I don't know that everybody says, oh, he's fine. He was just the knee brace was bothering him. But still, I think Saban's going to rest a lot of players to get ready for that championship, SEC championship game and a playoff run. I just have that feeling. What do you think about taking UMass and the Citadel and the points? Is that a bad play?
No, that's not a bad play at all. As a matter of fact, the UMass Georgia line opened up at 44, and it's been bit down to 41.5. So people do see, they're going to have them in for their star players will be in for about a quarter, and then they'll all be resting. But the question is Georgia's and Alabama's second and third team that much better than the starters for these other teams? As far as Alabama's concerned, I could see Georgia covering 41.5 just accidentally, right? I would go the other way. I would go UMass. But I could see them putting up enough points just with Justin Fields and whatnot. Now with Alabama, they're going to have Mac Jones in, third-string quarterback that hasn't gotten a whole lot of action. And the Citadel is, they can run the football. It's a triple option team. They'll hold on to the ball for a while. They're going to limit possessions. Mm-hmm. I would absolutely take Citadel in this one. Now, there's not a whole lot of places, online and whatnot that you can find an actual line. But, if you're out in Vegas, if you're down at Tunica, yeah, you ought to be able to find that line.
Yeah. Well, we're going to go to the callers, and I'll let Couch Coach and you go at it after the caller. We've got the legendary Bobby Durkins coming on. But I think Couch Coach wanted to go talk to you about, going into the championship week and the playoffs. But we've got a great YouTuber on here. Everybody loves him. He's a Clemson fan. I think he's been dropped on his head a time or two. If he hasn't been dropped on his head, he's at least been kicked in the nuts a time or two. How you doing, Bobby?
Lord, I tell you right now, if there's anybody who's ever hit the nail on the head, it's you. Listen, I get accused all the time of having a couple of extra chromosomes swimming around in here, and I'm not. But at the end of the day, I'm slap happy over Clemson. I just want to say this again to you. Congratulations on that win this past week. I am so freaking happy for y'all. I believe you're going to win tomorrow.
Yes, sir.
I believe that Jeremy Pruitt's going to march out there tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
He's going to drop his drawers, and he's going to lay a peanut-filled, steamy turd on the Missouri Tigers. You boys are going to win. Pulling for you.
Well, who do you play, Bobby?
Oh, Lord. We play the doctors from Duke. I mean, they're fantastic if you want to get into the annals of academia, but God forbid you put them on a football field. I mean, they got a great basketball team. I'm more scared of the basketball team playing football than I am the football team playing football. So, I mean, I ain't worried about it. I'm predicting somewhere about, 56-10. Clemson's defense hadn't allowed, first-string defense has not allowed a touchdown in 5 weeks. Any touchdown you've seen, it has been against our 7th string. It has not been against first string, and I think it's going to hold up tomorrow. Trevor Lawrence, he's going to go out there with his glorious golden hair, his arm that is second to none. And I'm going to tell you, the last time that I saw something this good was when I found that farting hippo on the YouTube, and he was farting and his tail was going. I tell you, I laughed so hard, I tell you, I blew my spleen out like Christian Lawrence when he nailed that quarterback from Boston College. A lot of people don't know this. He also busted a ball, but we'll leave that alone. But, yeah, I'm feeling good about it tomorrow.
You're always a riot, Bobby. Always a riot. Hey, we've got Gary from Winning Cures Everything. And what do you think about Clemson tomorrow? Is Bobby spot on, or how would you go with your money? What's the point spread on this, Gary?
The point spread's 28.5 right now. Now, if I was playing it, and I'm staying away from it, but if I played it, I would have to go Duke. 28.5 is just a ton of points. Clemson doesn't cover a whole lot against lesser teams at home. And, Duke is a lesser team. Clemson's going to be resting some guys. Once they get up fairly big, I could see them pulling some guys and getting some playing time for, somebody else. So, but Duke is 7-3, and you guys understand how good of a coach David Cutcliffe is.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, he's talented. He's gifted. That quarterback I got from Duke, in all seriousness, me, roughhouse and stuff, when it comes down to talking about football, you know me, I don't mind the X's and O's and the Q's and dotting the T's and crossing the I's, but the truth is our this is not the Duke team that we've seen in the past 20 years. Duke team we've seen in the past 20 years has sucked. I'm telling you, sucked. There was vacuum cleaners that had less suck than this football team. It's a good football team. In fact, this is one of the better teams in the ACC, though I will say the ACC is pretty much, aside from Clemson and Syracuse, is trash. It's trash. It's pure trash. If we were in New York right now, the Mafia would be fighting over which one would have rights to pick up how much trash from the ACC. But Duke is not a horrible team. It's just Clemson's that good. I was at the game last week, a couple of weeks ago, Louisville, Pigskin Pete. I'm going to be there at the Clemson, Carolina game with tailgating for Tigers. We're going to shoot a couple of videos, and I'm going to tell you right now, the only thing that cap it off is if Catfish would show up and shoot us around Death Valley in his big truck while I had my white butt stuck up against the window mooning all the fans from Carolina.
You're right. Let me ask you something, Bobby. You're an ACC homer. You're over there at the ACC side of things. You've got a game tomorrow, which I think they're ranked higher than they should, and I think it's for TV ratings, but they're playing Notre Dame, and that's Syracuse. What do you think is going to happen in that game? And then I'll let Gary follow it up with what he thinks.
You know, I tell you this, Notre Dame is one of those teams I sit there, and for me to figure out which one's going to win this game, I have to go sit down and sit down on my thinking toilet. My thinking toilet's where I make all my big decisions. And I'm going to tell you right now, as I was sitting on my thinking toilet, it's where I named my son. It's where I figured out whether I was going to marry my wife or not. It's a pretty big deal. I think I even decided to accept Christ while I was sitting on that toilet. So with that all said, I will say this. Do not be surprised if you get at the end of that game and Syracuse has won it. But
really?
Notre Dame is going to win the ball game. Notre Dame's going to win the ball game, but I'm going to tell you right now, do not be surprised. Don't run your truck through another trailer, Bobby. If Syracuse.
Well, Gary, what's the point spread on it, and what is your analysis? And then I'll let Bobby go, and I'll let Couch Coach and you go at it over championship weekend and the playoffs.
Well, the line right now is 10. It opened up 9.5. It got bet down to 9, and now it's back up to 10. Notre Dame is the significantly more talented team. My numbers say that it's right where it's supposed to be. They've got Notre Dame winning by 9.4 points, which obviously you can't do 0.4 points in a ball game, but you get the point. Yeah. The way I look at it, there's so much public wanting of Syracuse to win this ball game because we're cheering for any kind of chaos right now. There's been nothing really interesting happen at the top of the polls. It just seems too perfect to set up for Syracuse to win the game. So I do side with Notre Dame here. It's kind of like the Northwestern game a few weeks ago, where everybody, even I had the stat where over the past 4 or 5 years, Notre Dame was 1-8 in true Power 5 road games when they went to Northwestern. And then they just handled Northwestern. And they only won by 10, but they were up 24-7 at one point, and it kind of took the foot off the gas. I don't think they are good enough to take their foot off the gas against somebody, but they do understand that this is the last, real challenge before they get to the playoff. And I got a feeling that they're going to be amped up to this one. So, yeah, I'd roll Notre Dame minus the 10.
I will ask you this question, and I know the dirtiest 2-letter word in the world is if. If Ian Book goes down tomorrow, what do you think? Because when Bush, I had a bunch of people telling me, I tell you, man, it's like he went to one of those tent revivals and got healed. He can throw the ball. And I was like, no, he didn't. He can't. Him and Kelly Bryant cannot throw the ball downfield. They're good athletes, but they are playing the wrong position. What do you think if Ian Book goes out of that ball game tomorrow with an injury? I know it's if. What happens? What do you think if he goes out of the ball game?
If he goes out of the ball game, I still think Notre Dame would cover. I think Notre Dame's running game is that good. Their offensive line is, they're just rolling all over people. And Syracuse is not great against the run. They're not wonderful against the run at all. So,
and that's how we come back against them. You are right. That's how we come back against them and beat them. You're right. You're 100% right.
So they give up about 4.4 yards per attempt rushing. Interesting point about those guys, though, and I brought this up on our show. they actually average giving up more yards per play than they gain. And I understand, they run a whole lot of plays. They average about 85 plays a game. But they give up more yards per play than they gain, and that's never a good sign.
Wow.
No. Nope. Not a good one. I don't way that this would be a good sign is if their mama was deciding if this was a good sign or not. And she would say yes because that's your mama. So you're right. You're 100%
You're right about
By the way,
that.
hey, Couch Coach, good to see you, buddy. Good to see you.
May there.
May
Come
that
on,
said you
come
love
on,
me with
Couch Coach. You can do a better impression than that. Come on, lay it on us.
you. Come on.
Come on. May there.
That's right. That's good. That's good. Get fired up. Feel like a squirrel got let loose in your britches and you just let go, About 9 beers in.
Well,
Yes,
Found
sir.
out you won a $2 lottery off of a scratch-off ticket. That's how I feel all the time.
hey, Bobby.
Hey, speaking of Bobby, real quick, I know that next week you have supposedly another tune-up game against South Carolina, the Shamecocks, right? I want you to guess, since we're talking about point spreads here, guess the point spread for that game next week between Clemson and South Carolina.
Do y'all have enough airtime for me to sit here and laugh first? Lord, I hope my wife she washed a whole couple of pairs of drawers for me to change out of because I just ruined these. Lord, dear Lord, I think the serious one. I think we're looking about another 28. I think so.
28.
The boys in Vegas, they might get out there with them hookers and the Bunny Ranch and drinking a few and partying with the mafia and so on, and they might go, I believe Vela Defacino that I believe this is going to be about a 7-point. No, we're looking about 28 points. Carolina fans, let me go ahead and tell you this. It's the first time I can remember in years. In fact, I almost feel like my grandma with dementia. She introduces herself to me every time, and I'm obliged to meet her. But I'm telling you, this is the first time I can remember it. Carolina fans are actually owning up to reality. They know that next weekend, they are going to get a prostate exam in front of God and everybody at 7 o'clock next week. And everybody's going to get to watch it. They got more people decommit from them than they've ever thought about having commit to the team. So we're going to drill them. It's going to be a beautiful time. We're going to serve fried chicken. We're going to serve Hawaiian chicken. We're going to serve steamed chicken. Chicken's going to be I'm just looking forward to it. I hope y'all can tune into it. Enjoy the festivities. We hate those losers from Columbia. And we all know that their quarterback's only quarterback because his daddy has grandfathered him in.
Hey, Bobby, we were talking earlier. Before I let you go, I'm sure Couch Coach will talk to Gary about that South Carolina Clemson game. But I wanted to give a shout-out to Shane Bentley. He's always good for a super chat. I really, really appreciate it. It means a lot. It helps me keep this show going, and thank you for that. But we were talking about Thanksgiving. I could eat 2 dozen deviled eggs. And then Couch Coach was bringing up fried turkey. We had SEC talking about smoked turkey with pecan wood. What are you going to be doing for Thanksgiving, and what's your favorite dish?
Oh, my favorite dish, Lord. Well, first of all, we start off with ice cold beer. There's no way to thank Jesus for this wonderful, beautiful country that those pilgrims stumbled upon, probably half lit from beer that they had drugged over here from the other side. Then starting off with an ice cold beer. And then from there, we're going to go into a broccoli casserole, which my sister, she makes, and it's delicious. We'll go on to a pulled ham, not a sliced ham. Sliced hams are for wimps. I'm talking about pulled ham. Delicious, falls off the bone. It's been cooked most of the night. You wake up the next morning, your house smells like Thanksgiving. You can actually feel an angel wrap your their arms around you, like a pilgrim angel. And then the next thing, the deliciousness that is my great-grandmother. She's still alive. She's 102 years old. God bless Grandma Wilma. Grandma Wilma, she actually, every year, she takes an old pair of pantyhose from 1973, and she strains her world-famous spiced coffee through it, and we all sit around and drink it, and we really appreciate it. So that's what I'll be doing.
Spiced coffee?
Spiced coffee, yes, and it's actually through an old pair of pantyhose of hers. She won't tell us what the secret is of the spice, but it always puts a smile on Grandpa's face. That's all I'll say.
Well, I bet it don't hold a candle to the Pilot Flying J coffee. That's half Columbia roast, half house blend, and lots of cream and no sugar because I'm on a diet. And you owe me some coffee. I'm going to Rock Hill, South Carolina tonight. I'm going to be in Hartsville about 1 in the morning, loading at the paper plant, headed to Laredo. So you might get a chance to buy me some coffee now. You're not going to stand me up, are you?
Now listen to me. You go in total opposite direction of me. And we all know that paper companies, that those little areas, they have the paper mills, all smell like farts. Now, you can't expect me to come meet you smelling like a fart. But if you swing back through here, I'll do what I can do to meet you up here. I'll probably be half lit, God knows. But I'll take you down here and get you some of that coffee that's, half Colombian, half Hispanic, half cream, a little bit of the sweat from the weird woman in the back. I'll be more than happy to get you any of that.
Man, you're classic.
Last time I went to that Flying J up the road from us, I'm going to have to be honest. You talk about how good it is, but I'm just going to have to be honest. Y'all bear with me. Pray for me. Whatever you do, pray to your great eagle spirit, whatever the crap you believe in. Last time I went there, all I'll say is I ended up having to get a penicillin shot, and that's it.
All right, Bob. I appreciate the
when
call.
One of your nuts turned green and all you did was just take a piss there, that's a bad sign, Catfish. That's a bad sign.
We're gonna get back to football, man. But I love you. I love you, man. I'll give you a text and maybe we can get some coffee. If not, maybe after Thanksgiving. But everybody go sub up Bobby Durkins. Him and Pigskin Pete do a lot of good Clemson stuff. But thanks for coming on and thanks for calling the show, buddy.
You be good. Be good. Happy Thanksgiving. Happy Thanksgiving. Y'all be good. Y'all be good. See y'all. Bye.
Now you know, Gary, why everybody likes Bobby Durkins to call in. But I'm sorry to interrupt you and Couch Coach. Couch Coach had a thing he wanted to go over with you about. But go ahead, Couch Coach. You and Gary chop it up for a minute.
I'm good with Bobby. I could listen to Bobby for the whole hour.
Yeah, that was great. No, I mean, I guess just going off some of that stuff. I mean, obviously, we talked very briefly about Michigan, Ohio State. I mean, we did talk about South Carolina just kind of in a joking manner with Clemson there. But, I mean, what do you think? Do you think that game's going to be minus 28? Do you think that's a legit spread?
He was really close to it. My numbers have got it 26 if you include the home field advantage.
Wow.
So, yeah, I mean, it's on up there. South Carolina's not, they're just not real good at anything.
Bobby, if you're listening, Bobby, you're smarter than you look. But go ahead.
Yeah.
No, they're not they're 30. Oh Lord, what are they? I lost my place, but they're 35 in the Saturn ratings, and Clemson's the number 2. So yeah, it's going to be, and it's at Clemson. It should be a bloodbath because Clemson will actually play up for that one. I don't think they're going to play up for Duke, which is why I would take Duke plus 28.5. But next week, all bets are off. I don't think South Carolina's got much of a shot next week.
No.
Well, see, this is where I'm going to disagree because here's why. 2 years ago, I saw South Carolina in that Clemson game, and Clemson was favored like 24 in that game, and I remember seeing that because that was an enormous spread. And I was like, Clemson's going to cover that big time. I'm talking like 48-7, and it ended up being like 56-7. And then I think last year, I want to say it was like 13 or 14 or something, Clemson on the road. And I think a lot of South Carolina fans felt they were going to make that close. I'm like, I don't know. I think they're going to find, a way to still pull it out. Clemson just has a talent differential there. But if it's 26, 27, 28, Clemson going into this game, I'm taking South Carolina on that line. Now, I'm not saying they're going to win, right? But I think especially, and you brought this up and you made a good point. Clemson hasn't covered tremendously at home, this year. They are a very good team. They're clearly better than South Carolina, right? But I just, at 27, 28, around in that range, 26 even, I would take, that's enough for me to take South Carolina, especially in rivalry weekend.
And you would think that, but, I mean, look, the last time they went to Clemson, it was in Muschamp's second year. And like you said, they went into Clemson, and you would think, maybe they got a shot, and they got hammered, 56-7. So, last year, 34-10, it was a 24-point beatdown in Columbia. Clemson is such a better team, and the fact that South Carolina just doesn't do anything particularly well, this is the most Will Muschamp team you've ever seen. They're just all over the board. With some games, they'll be able to throw, for 300-plus yards and 4 touchdowns, and they can win a shootout with Missouri. Or, they've got a game where they can only put up 13 points, and you just never know what you're going to get from them. But I think it's across the board, Clemson is just a better football team. And you're right. I mean, 26, 27 points, it would be real tempting to take South Carolina there. But, be wary, because Clemson will play up for it, because they haven't had a whole lot of games that they had to get up for this year. And that will be one of them before the ACC championship game, which is, who are they going to play? Pitt? How up can you get? How emotional can you get?
Yeah. Well, and talking about kind of these in-state rivalry games, we can kind of start predicting these for next week. Obviously, the Iron Bowl is going to be an interesting one this year when we talk about large spreads, because usually that's a game that we expect to be very closely contested. It's going to be very hard. And, Catfish and I talked about this at the beginning of the year about the back end of Alabama's schedule, where we're looking at LSU, we're looking at Mississippi State, we're looking at Auburn, and then more than likely Georgia in the SEC championship game. And so, let's see what kind of spread would be for this game for Alabama-Auburn. And then do the Tigers have any kind of chance whatsoever of covering it?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, at Alabama at home would be about 24-point favorite.
Okay.
Which is a whole lot of points. And if Tua is still not healthy and Jalen Hurts isn't healthy, Auburn is not going to be able to score a lot of points, because, they can't score a lot of points against air.
I guess
Auburn could absolutely keep that within 24 points. It could end up being a 17-0 ball game. It could be 24-3. Anything like that gets you a cover. And the only thing that would make a difference is if Tua comes out, this weekend or that ball game, and magically his knee has healed. He's gone over to Germany and he's done the blood transfusion and whatever all the NBA players do and whatnot, and he's just magically healed. Now, I don't think he's going to be that, but the line is going to be absurd, and Auburn's going to play up for that ball game. So if it's about 24, like the numbers say it should be, then I would probably go the Tigers on that one.
Yeah, well, and I think, if it's 24, I like Alabama there, but I think it's going to be about a 38-13 kind of game. And, the Tigers do play pretty decent defense. I don't think they have like a LSU or even like a defensive line like Mississippi State plays, but I do think that, being it's a rivalry game, you might see some different tricks there. Gus really doesn't have anything to lose at this point, so why not empty out the playbook? But I do kind of see it being, something like that. I don't think Alabama puts up their customary 40, 50 points on them like they've been doing the teams. I do think they cover pretty good there. And then finally, just because I'm a homer, I want to talk about Georgia Tech and kind of what your opinion is of that game and possibly the spread there.
Well, the only thing I'd be worried about with Georgia Tech is Georgia Tech, with the triple option and the cut blocks and whatnot, you got to be worried about your offensive lineman. Ben Cleveland came back. The line looks really good right now. They didn't look good early when he was out. But they look like they are rolling right now. And Georgia Tech, I mean, we'll see what they do against Virginia this week. But Georgia Tech has come on strong here lately. That line, as of right now, should be about an 18-point line. Let's see. Is that game at Georgia? No, it's in Athens. It's in Athens. So, I mean, it should be 18 to 20 points. You know, I could see Georgia covering if they get up early. But, I mean, if they get up early, I foresee them taking some guys out and making sure they are healthy for the SEC championship game, because while it is a rivalry, it really doesn't mean a whole lot for the Bulldogs.
Yeah. Well, and you bring up a good point on that, because, you know, Georgia Tech hasn't beaten Georgia in Athens. I mean, Georgia Tech has beaten Georgia in Athens the last 2 times they played there. I don't know if you know that. They haven't beaten Georgia in Atlanta since like 1999 or something like that. So Georgia absolutely owns them in Bobby Dodd Stadium. But yeah, I think you're right, and it's an interesting little game, because I think if Tech, and what I've noticed with Tech is when they start kind of finding their groove towards the end of the year, it's a challenge for Georgia, and I think that Georgia would be very, very astute to not look past Georgia Tech last game of the year. I think Georgia wins it because they're simply the better team, and I don't have a lot of confidence in Tech's defense. But, hey, I mean, I don't have a lot of confidence in our run defense particularly, and I got to tell you that it takes a lot of discipline to play that triple option, and I haven't seen a lot of discipline out of our front seven a whole lot throughout the year. And so I could see it being a tough matchup, but I could see it being a 45-30 kind of game. You know, Tech covers, but Georgia wins the game.
I could absolutely – the last 10 years, Georgia is 6-4 against the spread against Georgia Tech. I could absolutely see exactly what you're talking about. The only difference is at the last 2 years, you know, this year and last year, this is a completely different Georgia team than what we saw for the 9 years before that under Mark Richt. Georgia is a physical specimen of a football team right now. And I don't know that Georgia Tech can match up with it, but I think they can limit the possessions enough and run the football well enough. They may not put up a ton of points, but I think they can put up enough and run enough clock to be able to keep it within the number.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Well,
Catfish, want to open up some callers here? You got anything?
Yeah, but before we do, call in, tell me what your favorite Thanksgiving food is, and I'd love to hear from you, because that's just right around the corner. I need some callers, but I've asked Uncle Lou, I've asked Couch Coach, what does it take to beat Alabama, and can they be beat? And what do you think the point spread's going to be? We talked about that earlier, and the recipe to beat Alabama. And how do you see that SEC championship game going?
I think Georgia could absolutely win the football game. Absolutely. One, because I don't think Tua's healthy. And it wouldn't matter if Jalen Hurts was healthy or not. You saw what Georgia did against him last year.
Yeah.
But what you need, what any team would need, you got to be able to get pressure with 4 down, right? Like Mississippi State did. But then you also have to have a quarterback that is dynamic and can make plays, you know, running the football and throwing. So Clemson is the ideal team. Georgia is right behind them because, you know, Georgia's got a good quarterback. Jake Fromm is, you know, people have kind of crapped on him all year, but he's a good quarterback. And they've got a good defensive line. They can run the football. You know, I look at it as you got to be able to get pressure without having to manufacture. LSU's problem was they had to bring – to get any kind of pressure on the quarterback, they had to bring safeties and linebackers and everything else. If you can get pressure on him and make the pocket tight on him, kind of close in on him without having to give up mismatches in the secondary, then you're in pretty good shape. I mean, Mississippi State doesn't exactly have a fantastic secondary, but they were able to get pressure with the down 4. And, I mean, they held Alabama to less than 300 yards last week.
Yeah, and I hate hearing that, because we do have to manufacture pressure. I hate our front seven. I'll just be very honest with you. I think we're very young there. I know I do. I hate – when I say hate, like, we could put mannequins in the middle of that defense, and it would give up they'd make the exact same amount of tackles. I think Jawan Taylor and Nate Patrick are horrible inside linebackers. I want to put all freshmen in there, because at this point I don't care. So I hate hearing that. But I'm going to tell you something with Alabama, too, and I think that game with Alabama and Georgia might be a little bit more lower scoring than people think, because I think that Nick is going to figure out pretty quick, probably about the second, third quarter, that he can run Damian Harris right down our throat and play old school Alabama football, and we're not going to do a damn thing to stop it because of those horrible linebackers of ours.
Well, I think you'll be able to stop it for a little bit, but the thing on the back end is once those linebackers have gotten accustomed to dealing with Damian Harris and Najee Harris, then he'll end up bringing in what's the little one's name? Josh Jacobs. That's it.
Yeah.
Once they bring him in, I mean, he's the little scat back. He's 5'8" and weighs 175 pounds. And he can just run away from people once you get to that point. So I've seen him do that against bigger teams this year, and it has worked to perfection. So that is something to be on the lookout for Georgia.
Well, we got a caller on the line, Gary. And before we do, how many more years before we go to Gate City Blue Devil online? How many more years do you think Saban's going to coach?
I'd say at least another 5 years, another 4 or 5 years.
Wow.
So I think that he has made a commitment to the Tagovailoa family, that he's going to be there. And once, Tua's little brother comes in,
good point.
I think he'll be there for the duration.
Yeah. Well, we're going to go to the
after
phone
that,
lines. We're going to go to the phone lines and get a friend of the show, Gate City Blue Devil. How you doing, buddy? And what are you going to have for Thanksgiving? Do you like deviled eggs as much as I do?
Yeah, I love them.
Do you?
They're great. They're they're classic, Thanksgiving fare.
I could eat 2 dozen of them.
Yeah, I can too. I do my share. I'm trying not to count them that way. I don't feel bad about it or whatever,
What I like.
Yeah, I like turkey. I like the whole 9 yards. all of it.
I like finding where they hide the devil eggs in the refrigerator because, you never eat early in the day, and I getting hungry, smelling all that food, and I'll go in there and sneak me 1 or 2 of them out, and they'll bring them out. About half of them be gone. But what's your favorite? Thanksgiving
that's
food?
The best. Well, like the deviled eggs, like somebody get them out of the fridge, because that's the perfect, chilled deviled eggs. That's the way to go.
Yeah.
Obviously turkey. I like turkey, but my friend, mine and BVD's friend Alan's mom, that's where I go eat Thanksgiving at. She always speaks like a roast pork loin, which is something a little different, But we also have turkey and those yeast rolls. I was actually commenting on stuff I thought, well, I need to go ahead and call. I've got some company here with me in my house. My older brother's here, who is actually going to take your place tomorrow at the game.
Oh, wow.
And he says, hey, his name's Bud. He's a big Orange fan from way back or whatever. He's like 9 years older than me, but... And two, I was wanting to come in too to follow up with you about. You remember I was telling you that I was going about my friend Andrew, whose grandfather was all SEC at Mississippi State.
Yeah.
Well, I called him after I got the phone to you today, and you're not going to believe what he was doing. He said, "Man, I would love to." He said, "I'm going to be in Starkville." He said they're honoring my uncle, which it's his grandfather's brother. It's his great uncle. His name is Art Davis, and he was all everything at Mississippi State, and he played in the NFL and stuff. He's going to be in Starkville this weekend. They're going to honor him at halftime. So my pick to go with me, he's actually going to be in Mississippi State. But I call my brother, and he's always, reliable to go to a Vol game, that's for sure. So he's going to go with me, and we're going to, and like I say, taking BVD and his daughter down there and everything. So, yeah, I just thought that was so neat. I told Andrew, I said, man, if you got to be somewhere else, you might as well be getting your family honored, by the family's alma mater and everything and whatnot. So,
well, you
I told BVD that I said he had all kinds of SEC greatness in his veins. He's got Mississippi Stateness in his veins, I guess.
Yeah. Well, you take care of BVD and his girl there. They're going to be up in the sky boxes. But how you feeling about this game tomorrow? I think we're going to win this game. I think we're going to win by 10.
I do too. Because I noticed everything's on a roll this weekend as far as just, in our neighborhood, like I say, BVD's daughter's going to her first game. It's a big deal. It's supposed to be nice weather and everything, which that's going to be good, I think some bad weather might have been in our favor a little bit, but I don't know, with the good weather and all, it's just going to be a good day for football. And as far as BVD's weekend's going, I mean, Greenville's beating the tar out of Anderson County. I mean, Anderson County's like undefeated stuff. But, the grand scheme, I just think we're on a good roll. I mean, I think we're coming off, they just need to stay in the backfield like you was talking about, a little bit of, what would you call it there, Shot Up? TNT? Going to give the TNT.
Yeah.
My brother showed me a picture that he took it. My brother took a screen grab. He showed it to me on his phone here a minute ago, and it was, I guess, was that Taylor? Was that his name? I'm so sorry because he just kind of come on.
Yeah.
But he had a screen grab of him chasing Kentucky's quarterback. It was just a perfect shot. I was like, yes. Wow. I said, that's exactly what Catfish said. We need to just keep up that because we're going to have to do it on lock. I mean, because he's going, he's a better quarterback than Kentucky had and all that stuff. But I just think we're turning the corner. And, I'm hoping here in the next few years, people can say what they want to. People can say, they can lie, say, we're going to come crashing down or whatever. But, hey, when you've been to the bottom of the pit, hey, it don't matter. We're coming back, and we're going to be back down in Atlanta before you know it, and all of us going to be down there together.
Yes.
And then a Tennessee versus whoever the West is. So,
that's right.
Y'all just get ready. It's going to take as long as it takes, and we don't really care because we love our Vols, and we're going to be there to support them. So, there you go.
Well, you invited me to some games last year. I couldn't make it. I've been trucking, and this year with my truck wreck, I thought I might be able to go, and it doesn't look like I can go tomorrow. Well, I can't, that's for sure. I'm going to Laredo, but you've invited me next year, maybe get to go up in the sky boxes and see Johnny Majors. I want you to tell the viewers who you saw in the sky box that was just hilarious. I had no idea he was a Tennessee fan or anything like that. But tell the viewers how he was dressed and who he was. Couch Coach would get a kick out of it.
Well, it was Jerry Glanville, and it was last year. And he was dressed, head to toe in black cowboy boots, black everything, black power tee on his shirt. He let me try on his Super Bowl ring, he's totally cool. I always liked him anyway, just as a personality, where he's just always kind of a nut, And he fit right in with us because, we're the common man's people up in there. So, yeah. He fit right in with us or whatever. But, that was a treat meeting him. Because when you're up in there, you never know who you're going to see. You never know who you're going to meet, who you're going to talk to. Because when you're up in there, like everybody, you're interested to know who you are and whatnot, Just like when BVD walked up to him, he engaged Johnny Majors, I talked to Bruce Pearl up there back in the day. I've talked to when Haslam was running for governor. He was up there. And my brother met Fred Thompson up there years ago. He's sitting there chiming in. Well, I'm looking forward to the future there because the future's bright. I was telling BVD, I can't remember, I think I told you so on the phone earlier today, but I'll share it with you again. We get an allotment of SEC championship tickets every year up at Meatfibers, and we've been selling those. We got like a rare customer there, and he's Alabama fan. Well, he had seen a DVD video where he said he was sponsored by us. So our finance officer came up to me and said, "Hey, this guy from Alabama buys the tickets. Said he knows BVD. Said that we're sponsoring him." And I said, "Well, yeah, we're like an unofficial sponsor, because she's not been hip to the game, because this has all just been friends and stuff, And but yeah, I told her, we're an unofficial sponsor. And I told her today, I said, I told BVD, he's got a fan, but I was also saying I hope here before long that we ain't gonna be selling those SEC championship tickets. We're gonna be utilizing them.
Yes.
And we're going to be going down there, and that'll be you.
Right there with you.
Yeah, man. That's my hope. You'll be there tomorrow. Like I say, Bud's going there, so he'll be there cheering for you and everything, my brother. I got people, it's like I say, Vol Nation, you're always going to get somebody to step up. That's why they call us volunteers.
That's right. Well, I appreciate you calling, and I'm sure Couch Coach is going to disagree with us going to the SEC championship game anytime soon, but let's take one more caller and we'll come back to this. He's been on hold for about 8 minutes, and I want to make sure the callers get a chance to get on here. You're on with Gary from Winning Cures Everything, Catfish and Couch Coach. What you got?
How you doing, Catfish? This is the Ball General.
Hey, buddy, how are you? Are we going to win tomorrow?
Doing good. You want me to tell you what you want to hear or the truth?
Well, I don't like the way you're phrasing that. I really don't. But go ahead.
Well, here's the deal. I'm just now tuning in. I had to do something. I just now got home, so I don't know what your prediction was. But I just got to go with Missouri in this one.
Why?
I just don't see any way we can keep up with that offense. Our defense has been improving vastly, but I just don't think we can score enough points to beat Drew Lock in that Missouri offense. I just think they're going to outscore us in a high-scoring offensive shootout. What was your prediction?
Oh, I think we're going to win the ball game. We're definitely covering. I think Missouri's favored by 6, but I think did you watch last week? I mean, Shy Tuttle and Taylor were in the backfield. They set up a tent in the backfield. I know. I'm telling you, you need to come back down off the ledge and think about this clearly. I know Couch Coach is over there laughing his butt off, but listen, we're winning this game. We're winning it. I believe it, and I just think that things are starting to click. Our receivers are doing better. I know Juwan Jennings had some butterfingers, but that Hail Mary was that we're just winning the game. You're not going to come on here as a Tennessee fan and start telling me, do you want me to tell you the truth or what you want to hear? I knew that was bad news when you started it, but think about it. I really think our D is.
I picked us to lose 3 games all year: Alabama, West Virginia, and Georgia. I predicted us to win the West. Besides this game, obviously, I just don't see any way possible our offense can outscore their offense if it gets into a shootout. Would it be the most shocking thing in the world if Tennessee won this ball game? No, or not at all. But do I think they are? I just gotta go with Missouri. I think it's the better option. I don't bet on my team, but if I was, I would definitely have to go with the Tigers.
Well, I don't know if you realize this, but the whole world is starting to see that I'm a genius. And I said before the season, didn't I, Couch Coach? Did I not call 7-5 before the season?
You said 7-5, and I said 6-6, and I think it's still going to be 6-6. But go ahead.
All right. Well, Vol General, I appreciate you calling. We're running a little long on time. Everybody go check him out. But we're winning this ball game. I could see where you're coming from.
I hope.
And you really shouldn't bet.
Win this game.
You shouldn't bet on your own team. I tell everybody never bet on your own team, but this is the week you bet the house on Tennessee. Put it all on it. All in.
Yeah. Here, I'll do you this. If we win that game, I'll call into your post-game show. I'm heading up there to Knoxville early tomorrow morning to watch it. And when I get to my car, I'll call you in if we win that ball game, and I'll tell you were right. How about that?
That's right. You better. All right, buddy. Thanks for calling. We're going to wrap this up. I think Couch Coach had a few more things for Gary. But what do you think about that? I knew that call was going south when he said, you want me to tell you what you want to hear or the truth? I knew it was going south right then.
You know what? It's kind of like how Georgia fans felt with Mark Richt after a while. We just, there's a certain fan base that we've just been disappointed so much. You just you get a little overly negative. I agree with you. I think that Tennessee's going to cover that line tomorrow, and I think we all kind of feel the same way on that. I think it's going to be a tight game. So, I mean, it would not shock me if Tennessee won that game. I just think that with the proven quarterback play there with Locke, I just like Locke a little bit more than I like Garantano. But I agree. I mean, I think that you go with Tennessee on that line at the 6 or even the 6.5 and feel pretty comfortable about that, especially playing at home, especially coming off a big win against a pretty good team in Kentucky. So definitely take Tennessee on the line for sure. Maybe take Missouri in a close one, kind of similar to that South Carolina game is kind of what I'm thinking.
Well, I don't know what the over-under is on it, but I have a feeling they're probably going to think it's going to be a lower number. What's the over-under on that before I let Couch Coach go?
That's a good question. Here, let me pull it up right quick. I didn't have the over-under on me. Let's see. Missouri over-under is 57. So they expect it to be pretty high scoring.
I'm going to go with the under on that one. I really do. I don't think it's going to be that high. I think it might be a 17-24 type game.
That's exactly how I see it.
But go ahead, Couch Coach.
So
finish it up, and I'll come back and wrap it up, and I'll get back on the road. But go ahead and go into that future stuff you were wanting to talk to him about.
Well, I think that's it. I mean, I think, the biggest thing is just, I really like to see kind of going into next week just how right we are on some of these, early predictions on the spreads and things like that. And, again, it all just comes down – I'm a big perception guy, and I brought this up at the beginning of the show, and I think perception moves our reality in a lot of ways. And I think that whenever you're kind of overly down on your team, just kind of like the Vol General was just now, it's almost a good time to kind of, bet the house a little bit on your team. And that you have to kind of look back and like, hey, am I looking at this right? Now, his analysis was not bad. I mean, I think he was bringing up some good points. And, regardless, I still think 7-5, 6-6 for Tennessee. I mean, does it really matter in terms of like that win-loss record? You're going to probably go to the same quality of bowl regardless. I mean, you're looking at probably a Liberty Bowl or something along those lines. So if Tennessee can get this year, then that's forward progress, right? Is it something that you jump up and down in the streets about? No, but I think that, this team last year just got their brains beat out in every single way possible. And so I think any kind of forward movement is what you want to see with your team. And I think that that's what you should want for any team that you support is that you want to see progress. You want to see competition. You want to see improvement as the season goes along. And I just think Tennessee, as you look at this year, first year of Pruitt, you got to kind of pat yourselves on the back and say, hey, look, this time last year we completely mailed it in and got our asses whipped in every way possible. And this team is not doing that. So I think that says a lot about Pruitt and the kind of future culture that he's trying to build there.
Yeah, I agree with that. What do you think going forward into the playoffs? I mean, is there any betting lines out there on the Heisman? I don't think there's anybody but Tua that, if you put your money anywhere else, it'll just be to grab a few sleeper bucks. But what about, the Final Four? It looks like Notre Dame, Michigan, Clemson, Alabama. I mean, or Georgia, the SEC championship winner. Do you see anything any different, or how the lines are going to be, and who matches up best, and anything on the betting for the championship playoffs or the college football playoffs?
Well, Clemson is real close to Alabama right now. Clemson is really close to Alabama. Alabama's still like minus 250 to win the national championship. But Clemson is, about plus 150, plus 190, somewhere around there. So it's not crazy. Back to those Heisman odds that you were talking about, just in the last week, Tua has gone from minus 1,000 to minus 450. And Kyler Murray from Oklahoma has jumped up to plus 500, and then Will Grier is right behind him at plus 700. So whoever wins that Oklahoma-West Virginia game next Friday, right after Thanksgiving, they're going to have a chance to move up pretty high, especially if Tua's still injured. But I do think it's still Tua's. I think that's about it. As far as the playoff goes, the thing you got to look out for is, is the committee going to take, Notre Dame head-to-head over Michigan? Like, is that going to matter? Or will they look at Notre Dame, as, well, you didn't have to play a conference championship game, which I don't think that Michigan's is going to matter much because, they got to go play Northwestern. But, I mean, Michigan, since losing that opening game, I mean, they've looked like the much better football team than Notre Dame. If Georgia were to beat Alabama, at that point you've got kind of a chaos situation because you got Michigan and Alabama and maybe Oklahoma or West Virginia, whichever one ends up coming out of the Big 12. You got a whole lot of one-loss teams that are possibly conference champions that, do you leave Alabama out because they lost one ball game against a really good team? Or, do you toss them in and then leave out conference champions? So for people that won an 18 playoff, the Alabama-LSU national championship game back in 2011, that is what spearheaded our 14 playoff now. If you leave out Michigan and Oklahoma after they've only lost one game and they're conference champions, and then you put in Alabama, you're going to hear a whole lot of grumbling, I think.
Yeah, I just don't think anything moves very much. I mean, and I've said this before, kind of talking with Catfish about this early in the week. Say if Georgia does win, and I think that Notre Dame wins out, and I think, Michigan probably wins out too. So basically it just kind of moves up a slot and Georgia goes to 4. That means Georgia would have to play Alabama and Clemson essentially back to back, which is an immensely tall order for any team to do. Now, that being said, if Georgia gets hot at the right moment and say they beat Alabama and say they beat Clemson, they are 100% winning the championship. Because if they get through Clemson and Alabama, they're not losing to Notre Dame and Michigan. I'm sorry, folks. It ain't going to happen.
Well, I'll tell you this.
Yeah.
You're not going to have to worry about Clemson in that first game because the committee, if they do put Michigan and Notre Dame in together, they are not going to have them rematch in the first game. They're going to try and avoid a rematch as much as possible. So you'll probably see Georgia move up to 3, and you'll get a Notre Dame-Georgia game and a Clemson-Michigan game, which would be fine for ratings. Everybody would be fine with that. But I mean, if I were Georgia, I'd much rather play Notre Dame first.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, of course. That's a good point. All righty, well, that's all I got, Bobby.
Well, I guess that's it, Gary. I appreciate you coming on the show, and I want everybody to go check out Winning Cures Everything, and it sure does. That's a great name, and we're going to do a whole lot of winning from here on out because we're going to 7-5. We're going to a decent bowl game. We're going to have some good recruiting, and that old saying, I said it in my video today, wait till next year. That's kind of like the Tennessee state motto. Well, this time it's for real, and it starts tomorrow. Everybody, we're going to shock the world. Nobody's giving us any chance. But thanks, Gary, for coming on the show. Thanks, Couch Coach. Thanks all the callers and everybody that watches us. Couldn't do it without you. Thanks to Allied Oil and Tire. But we're going to get on out of here. I got to be in Hartsville, South Carolina, Laredo Sunday evening, Columbus, Ohio Tuesday evening, and home to get some deviled eggs, collard greens, dressing, turkey, everything, and I'm gonna be fat as a tick when I get back out on the road after Thanksgiving. And everybody have a great college football watching tomorrow. So y'all know what's coming next. Thanks for tuning in. Go Vols. We're definitely going 7-5. I promise you.